All right. Hey, everyone. I just wanted to jump on and talk to you guys about what I've got planned and coming up. As many of you know, my super match with Dalton Waller did end up happening. Um, the Wednesday before we were supposed to compete, I ended up getting a sinus infection. Didn't have enough time for the antibiotics to kick in. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't see. I was coughing like crazy. It wouldn't have worked out, unfortunately. But I did get some good practices in this last weekend, and then a couple weeks before the match. And I think I have a pretty good idea of what I need to work on in order to accomplish some of my goals. Now I do have some super matches set for this year. Rescheduling the super match with Dalton is a big priority because I think that needs to happen. And then I do have another super match with Mike Schaaf that we still have to determine if we're going to pull right or left-handed, but I'll get to that shortly. And I don't want to take away from any of those, but my main goal this year is to win Montana State's 198 pounds right and left hand. I want to be the best in the state. I think that's the first big step before I make any bigger goals or aspirations out there. I should at least be able to win my state championship. And so, I wanted to show you guys how I plan on doing that by taking a look at my training plan. So here in Google Sheets, I created a workbook. Basically, what I'm going to be doing is I selected some exercises that I think are specific to the strengths and weaknesses I really want to improve upon. That's going to be my static riser, locked pronation side pressure, my wrist wrench cupping, and my internal rotation. I think all these are very key to how I pull. I'm not going to be neglecting anything else, but these are just going to be the main movements that I'm going to choose to progress. So the way I'm training is probably a little bit different to what you guys might know. I've worked with a lot of different coaches. I used to be into powerlifting, and now that I'm into arm wrestling, I think I'm going to apply a lot of what I've learned from what's gotten a lot of people up to high levels in powerlifting, and what I've learned from many different arm wrestling coaches that I've worked with. I've worked with Hermes Gasparini for a little while, Brandon Allen for a little while, Sandra Settis for a long time, and most recently Lachlan Adair. I found a lot of things from all of them that I really like and really worked for me, but I never thought that they quite exactly fit what I needed and what I knew my body responded well to. So the overall structure of the plan is going to be 4 working weeks, leading up to basically a kind of a max effort week on week 4, and then a deload week for week 5 before I kind of start the whole block over again. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is because when I was in powerlifting, initially in my training, we would do 6-week-long blocks where the 7th week would be a deload week. And my body didn't really respond very well to that. I would hit a lot of plateaus. Fatigue would kick in a lot sooner than expected. So what we ended up settling on and what ended up working and really pushing my numbers up was having a deload every 5th week. So I'm going to give that a try. I think that just works well for my body, for my lifestyle. I work a lot. I don't always eat the best, even if I eat a lot. So my recovery is probably not as good as it should be, but this kind of helps to counterbalance that a little bit. Maybe at the, sacrificing a couple extra weeks of work throughout the year, but I think this is going to work well for me. So right off the bat, I'm going to establish a 1 rep max on these lifts. And what I do is I create what's called a training max based off these numbers. Now, obviously, as the weeks go along, you're going to have times where you feel really good and times where you feel really bad. So a training max is basically taking that number, your maximal lift, and using 95% of that number. That'll account for the bad days. So that way, even when you do have bad days and you're basing it off of your training max instead of your true max, then you should still be able to hit those numbers. And one thing I think is really important is, while I am a big believer in RPE, I think having a number to aspire towards is really important, and a goal number to hit, and not just completely going off of feel, because, you really want to be able to perform. And sometimes you can kid yourself, and take it easier than you should, just because maybe, you're a little sore or something like that. And so maybe instead of doing a true RPE 7, you're really doing like a 6.5 or even a 6, just because you're just trying to find an excuse for your exhaustion levels to maybe be a little bit higher than they are. So for my main lifts, I do like to have numbers to punch in and to aspire towards. So, for example, if we look at week 1, day 1, static riser. So I have, for the main progression, week 1, 3 sets of 5 and RPE 7. What RPE 7 kind of loosely means is that it's like, when you get to that 5th rep, it's like a 7 out of 10 effort level. So there's definitely still quite a bit left in the tank. This week is not a max effort week. Then the next, but it's still difficult. And then the next set of riser lifts is going to be 4 sets of 8. But I'm doing at 80% of that, of whatever I get for the weight on my static riser. And then the weight that I put in is going to be the heaviest weight I achieve over the course of 3 sets of 5. I might find a number I like for my first working set of 3. But I'm always going to try to add a little bit more, even if it's just a 1 pound plate or the little 2.5 pound plate. Whatever, if I can add a little bit on and I don't think I busted too far over, like if I get to a 7.5 or something, I'll consider it too high. But whatever the highest number I use is, I'm going to put into this weight category. And then, so 80% of that weight, or a reduction of 20%, that I'm going to do for volume. Now, this is a modern take. And I know a lot of people in arm wrestling like conjugate, which is a little bit old school. It's a little bit more max effort oriented all the time. But again, for most people, some people can train like that, but for most people, and me especially, there's too much fatigue involved in that, and my central nervous system doesn't recover quick enough to progress well with conjugate, because I have tried. So more modern powerlifting coaches, use this method where you have a top working sets followed by back down sets, is what this would be called. This allows you to safely get volume in without risk of effort and without overtaxing your central nervous system. And this is also really good for learning the technical aspect of the movement, because all movements, just like arm wrestling itself, have a technical aspect. And then after the main progression lift for the day, there's going to be what's called accessory exercises. And basically these are to support the progress of the main movement, which they might be directly related, they may not be. They might just be supporting those structures. So for instance, what I find really good for my riser is ulnar. Basically the opposing movement to riser. So it's really important for me to progress these. And now these are going to be progressed at a slightly lower RPE, at an RPE of 6. So this first week, it's going to be fairly easy. Mainly it's about getting used to the movements, getting volume in, and starting to build that foundation you need in order to perform at your best. And the other days essentially follow the same format, except for they're designed a little bit more around whatever my progression lift, like for instance, locked pronation side pressure, where again, I like to do an opposing lift as like my main progression. So it's going to be a supinated side pressure with a multi-spinner. So that way I'm working the opposite movement to the same degree. Again, then the rest is accessories just to support what my main function for that day is, which is obviously pronation. And then the big change going down is going to be days 4 and 5. So day 4 is going to be kind of like a general strength day, general lifting day. I think this is important because you want to be well-rounded. You don't want to have weaknesses in your body. You know, I think that there's obviously a lot of merit to like that giant pumpkin style of training where you just focus on one structure, focus on improving one, like for instance, if you're just care about right armed arm wrestling, only giving attention to your right arm, I'm sure there's a lot of benefits to that, especially in the short term. But I think over the long term, you're going to be doing your body a disservice, and it's going to lead to a lot of injuries because you're going to become very unbalanced. And one of the biggest issues I see with a lot of people in arm wrestling is that arm wrestling is almost entirely pulling movements in the way that people train it and approach practice. And they don't do enough pushing or pressing. They don't really train their triceps. They don't really train their shoulders, their lats, their back. And all of these structures stabilize and balance out your body. Your tricep helps to stabilize your elbow quite a bit. So you'd be surprised about how much training your tricep can help you in arm wrestling, especially if you're an inside puller, because it's just going to help make that elbow even more stable. Same thing with shoulders. Your shoulder plays a big part in stabilizing your whole arm and helping you get especially that initial center table pressure and winning center. And you see so many people injure their shoulders in arm wrestling because, I think that they're just not conditioned up. And then when they have to go give a maximal effort, they're in a competition, in a super match or a tournament, then they end up getting injured because they're pushing themselves past their limits. These are movements that you don't have to, progress the same as your arm wrestling movements. You don't have to put a ton of effort into just lifting the most amount of weight. Just trying to lift more when you can and making sure that area is just trained and conditioned and prepared. That's kind of the goal here. So yeah, day 4, general strength day, JM press, parallel grip, partial pull-ups. A lot of this, JM press, it truly is amazing for conditioning the elbows. And I'm primarily an inside puller, so I need that conditioning as much as possible. And it definitely does over time, once you've kind of worked them into your program for a while, it definitely does help to pull some of that pain out of them. And probably, again, because of the conditioning levels where you just helps to load your elbows in a different way and makes them more adapted to that. Back pressure, I think parallel grip pull-ups are just about the best movement for back pressure. So I'm doing partial pull-ups and static holds. So I can work on the lock and, engaging the hammer when I need to. And again, the rest of it's mostly just to support structures, dumbbell fly, make sure my chest is healthy. And for the pull downs, I'm choosing to do fat grip because again, I don't really need to worry too much about progressing my whole structure of my back overall. So I want to make sure I'm getting some kind of hand training in there. So I'm probably going to do a wide pull-up bar with fat grips on the ends just to work through my hands a little bit more. And then one thing I did miss is I want to say that on all my training days, one thing I'm putting in is a static. So like the rise, holding my riser, challenging it for 10 seconds for 6 sets. Same thing for pronation and my cupping. This is something that I haven't really had in my training too much leading up to this point. They've kind of been sprinkled in here or there. But the more I talk to different people and the more different coaches and things I work with, I think that they're a really important part and can help me in my progression a lot. So I'm kind of just adding them in. I might add in more. I might even put in a specific day just for isometrics in the future. I just want to see how my body reacts to them. So I'm just putting in one per day for now. And then day 5. Now this is something that I think is also really important specifically for arm wrestling. For powerlifting, this did nothing for me. But for arm wrestling, I think this is really important because I did a lot of, I wouldn't call traditional speed work like you're going to see here on this. But with Lachlan, we did a lot of speed work in a very specific way. I don't want to give away his methods or anything like that. That was really helpful for me. And I think I was kind of hiding certain things for a while because I didn't want Dalton or other people to know kind of like what my strategy was. But this last weekend, I think I surprised some people with a little bit of speed they weren't expecting. And it gave me access to some movements that I haven't really used before or had success with before. So I think this is really an important part of my training going forward, specifically for arm wrestling. And I really would recommend people to put in speed days. Now, what's specific about my speed day is it's always going to be the day after I do table time. So for me, this is going to be on a Sunday. And the main reason for this is the speed work. Now, this is pulled straight from Todd Hutchings. He recommends to do speed work at 60% of your 1 rep max. So my formula up there, as you can see, is 60% plus band, which I don't have on the sheet here, but I plan on, starting with just a light band and every week move up a band weight until I kind of see where I need to really be working with the speed work. But being able to move fast and apply force quickly, it can really, really make a huge difference. Like if you can statically back pressure, 100 pounds, then when you dynamically hit into your back pressure, you're probably dynamically hitting for 120, 125, 130 pounds if you're adept at it. So speed definitely makes a difference. So the main thing to note after going through or looking at all these, like I said, this first week's kind of easy. You'll see everything's like RPE 6, and then 7s for the main progression movements, the wrist wrench cupping, lock pronation, side pressure, and static riser. So as we go to week 2, the main differences are going to be that you'll see that the reps are going to change. So we did a 3x5. Now we're going to do 3 sets of 4, and then the RPE is going to go up to an 8. So the number should go up quite a bit, percentage-wise, usually like 5, sometimes 10%, mattering on how well I'm eating and just how my body's progressing strength-wise. So again, we're dropping them. Same thing for the back-down sets. As the weeks progress, volume drops, but intensity increases. So the weights are going to get heavier and they're going to get harder to maintain over the multiple sets. But since we're dropping the overall volume, it's going to help offset that a little bit. So then again, the accessory work is going to go up from an RPE 6 to an RPE 7. And I did forget to mention also on the speed day, I have some other accessory work, specific shoulder work, and then tricep and bicep work. You do get indirect tricep and bicep work from the general strength day, but I also think it's important to give them specific attention like pressing is going to work on your front shoulders and mid shoulders to a degree, and pulling is going to work on your mid and rear delts. But I just wanted to make sure that I, was getting some specific training in there and making sure they weren't neglected completely. Week 3, this is going to be a very difficult week because it's kind of like the middle ground between volume and intensity. So the RP is going up to a 9. And the volume's dropping again. So this time we're going to do 3 sets of 3 with our main progression movement. And then back down sets are going to be 3 sets of 6. And this is where the back down sets are really difficult to do. Doing 80% of an RP 9 movement is hard. You can do it, but you're going to have to work for it. And that's why I like to have a specific number for this. Because if I can't quite hit it, I can make a note here off to the side saying, missed target weight, and maybe give a reason like, had bad sleep, wasn't really eating, not hydrated, whatever the reason is. I can make a note here so that way I can assess for the next weeks or the next block, something I can do to try to make sure that I'm able to hit that number. Because ideally, if I want to be able to hit that number, and be able to do all 3 sets of 6, and just barely be able to get through them, but still successfully do it. And if I'm strong enough that I feel like I could have added weight, then you don't want to add weight, but that's even better. That means you're progressing ahead, and you're probably going to lead to a big PR on your max effort week, or at least a PR on your max effort week. And again, one thing that's staying the same, because I really want to, I want to progress the strength on these progression exercises. I want to make sure that I'm not taking away from my ability to actually arm wrestle, and be decently conditioned, and not just instantly blow up or not have anything left in the tank after one big effort. So I'm leaving the main accessory as a 6 sets of 6, and I'm leaving the isometrics at a 6 sets of 10-second holds. Again, just to make sure that I'm getting the most that I can for arm wrestling specifically, and not just trying to make my numbers as big as possible. Because there is a difference. Just because you PR'd big time, especially in a super match, doesn't mean you're going to win if you can't repeat that effort over multiple rounds. Let's see, no other big changes. And then the main thing now is going to be week 4 is going to be a max effort week. So RPE 10, so 10 out of 10 effort, 3 sets of 2. Now I know a lot of people would say, like, why aren't you going to do a 1 rep max? Again, because this is for progressing my arm wrestling, not just hitting a PR. I could work all the way up to a 1 RM if I wanted to just worry about, my numbers progressing as fast as possible. But I think that this is a smarter move to become a better arm wrestler. Not go quite to a 1 RM, because 1 RMs hold a higher risk of injury, in my opinion. And this is just the route that I'm deciding to go. It might change in the future. I might go to a 1 RM. I might go to a 3 RM. I don't know. And it's not even a true 2 RM, because this is an effort I'm trying to do over 3 sets of 2. So again, I'm not fully dropping the volume down like I would in powerlifting in order to achieve the highest 1 rep max possible. I'm trying to be the best arm wrestler possible, so I'm trying to make sure that I have at least a decent amount of volume even at the peak. Now, these back downs again are going to be very difficult. 3 sets of 4 at 80% of a maximal effort. It's going to be very difficult. But finding a way to fight through it, even if I have to do a method, like I can make it decide here. Maybe I did 3 reps and then I took like a 5-second pause and then I did the 4th rep. Whatever it takes, but I want to make sure I get that volume. I want to make sure I get all 12 reps. Even if I have to break it down, like let's say I do 2 sets of 4, and then for the 3rd set, I can only do, a set of 2, and then I have to do another set of 2. I can annotate that off to the side here. But the most important thing is making sure I get all these reps, because these back down volume reps are way more important than a lot of people think. Even as opposed to because a lot of this type of thing here is really conditioning my central nervous system to make a strong, hard effort. And then all the accessory work goes to a 9. So this week is very difficult again. But the overall volume dropping on the main progression lift does kind of help to offset the difficulty of doing everything at an RPE 9. And this week being so difficult is part of the reason why I'm definitely going to need that, 5th week to be a deload week. Let me see. And then, so, like I said, the general strength day isn't exactly like, the arm wrestling specific days, because, progressing this isn't my main goal. It's, my arm wrestling is the main goal. So the lowest I'm going is a 4 set of 4 out of 9, definitely not a 10. Well, I want these to be difficult, and I want to progress, especially the pull-ups, because I think they're important for back pressure. This is the furthest I'm willing to go, and especially because I don't want to gain too much weight. If I put a lot more volume and emphasis into this day, my weight would start going up, just because I would start gaining mass essentially, and I'm trying to avoid that a little bit because my appetite's just been crazy the last year, and keeping my weight manageable has been very difficult. And then the deload day or week, very simple. There's only going to be 2 days. I'm still going to be doing table time on the deload week, but this will be the only day on the deload week where I take it easy. I'll probably just go in and maybe do like maybe 3 hard pulls on each arm, and then just maybe a static hold in the winning or losing position for a little while, and that's probably going to be it, just to keep the volume low enough that my body actually recovers, and then I can start the first week, because basically as soon as this is done, then I'm going back to week 1. And the way that you're going to know to progress the numbers and to see if you have a new max or PR is I'm going to base it off of the week 4 RPE 10 day. So you can use a 1 rep max calculator on a website. You can just Google 1RM calculator. And I'm just going to use that. I probably will only do a true 1RM once or twice a year. I don't really see the need to do it more. As long as the numbers are constantly progressing and going up, there's not really too much of a reason to always just be doing 1RMs unless conjugate really works for you. It just doesn't work for me. Now there is one thing too that I did forget about. You'll notice that internal rotation's also on here. This is a really important movement for me, but I just could not find time in my schedule in order to make space for it. So for me, I am putting internal rotation on my cupping day, because this is cupping for me personally is easiest to recover from versus side pressure, pronation, and rise. So I think having 2 hard exercises on this day is okay. I'll be fine. And one thing I am doing with it is I made it the 6 sets of 6 movement, because again, this is something that I think really progresses well from volume. But I will also be plugging that into a 1RM calculator, because if this plan doesn't progress the number by at least, decent amounts over time, then I'm probably going to have to find a way to change things around um, to make it more of a priority. Um, because yeah, the internal rotation is just way too important for me. But I think the 6 sets of 6 will give it a good middle ground to where I'll be getting enough volume that'll be conditioning my shoulders, and then the reps will also be low enough that I'm still going to progress strength wise. Um, so that's kind of experimental, leaving that in there. Um, so it's definitely a max I want to track and make sure that, 6 sets of 6 actually does move the needle up on it. Because if it doesn't, then I need to change something. And I'll probably end up making the cupping day just a cupping and internal rotation day. And it's just going to be an extra long, kind of extra hard day, just to, where I'll put it in the same structure as like these other progression movements, where I'll have a top set and then a back down sets to work off of. So this is definitely experimental. I'm not saying it's the best thing. I tried to build this based off of, again, what I've learned over the last couple of years of arm wrestling and what I know about myself personally. And we're going to see how it goes. It's either, I'm going to get better or I'm not. And if I don't, if I make the adjustments after this first block and then I'm still not seeing good results, then I'll probably go back to traditional coaching, because it has worked well. I have progressed with that, but I wanted to see if I can tailor something a little bit more perfectly to me specifically. And then I guess the last thing I want to say is that I'll probably be switching out all the accessory movements. So these ones that are like 8s, or the ones that were, like 6s on the first week. I'll probably be changing those out quite like every block. So once I get to the end of this 4-week block, I'll probably just copy and paste this over and then just switch those out for slightly different exercises based on what I felt helped, what didn't help. Like if something seemed like it was really working, then I'll keep it in. But if it doesn't really seem like it, or if I want to try a different variation to maybe work on something that I see a little bit more specifically for an upcoming match, then I'll go ahead and do that. But I want to progress these 3 main, or really 4 main movements for at least 4 blocks and see where I end up. There's some big stuff coming up. There's a tournament in Forsyth that will probably be decently big, and I know there's going to be some good guys there. And I think my main kind of rival Dalton's going to be there, so that'll be a good test. And then there's Miles City in March, and then I have a super match in April. And then after that, I don't think I'm going to be competing until the state tournament in September. I kind of want to go down to Colorado State, but that's pretty close. It's close enough that I won't really be able to do any training in between it and Montana State. So I'll be hopefully just trying to recover and maintain strength from there. So I'm not sure if I want to lose those weeks yet. And then after that, I kind of just want to go to anything I can get to, just to try to really get on as many hands and arms as possible and learn as much as I can. But yeah, no, that's my plan. Hopefully it made sense. I know I was rambling a little bit there. It's a little hard to explain all the processes in play, because I feel like I've kind of picked and choose from so many different people and programs that it might not make sense to you guys, but it feels like it makes perfect sense to me. So if you have any questions, let me know. If you need any help putting together a program for yourself, or Anything else, I'd be glad to lend a hand if you think I can help you with that. If you like this content and you want to see more, I'd appreciate liking the video. And I would also appreciate if you could subscribe if you like my channel. Thank you.